Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Connection with the Weekly Comic Book Roundup. We'll get started on this week's X-Men comics here. Starting off with Wolverine number 6, 10 of Swords, Chapter 3. The war has been declared. It appears that war will be fought between Arakko and Krakoa, with Apocalypse's original 4 horsemen leading the forces of Arakko and the X-Men, the forces of Krakoa. However, this will be done in Otherworld style, meaning a tournament of 10 fighters on each side. 10 fighters, 10 swords. And among the named swords was Muramasa. Also a prophecy that seemed to basically may have well just said, so yeah, this is Logan's prophecy, was also stated. We begin with Wolverine in hell. As he explains, for most of us, been to hell and back is just an expression. I know from first-hand experience, this place is the best place there is at punishment. By minding the pain already inside you, by accounting for what you owe, hell is where the past catches up with you. And I'm here because the past is caught up to Krakoa. Before leaving, Wolverine speaks to the tree. Basically saying, Krakoa wanted the external gate open, means Krakoa wanted war. But he explains that Wolverine further explains to Krakoa that he thinks they got something worth fighting for there. So he's going to find the Muramasa blade, and he's going to make some things bleed, and he's going to win. But he doesn't think he's ever going to trust Krakoa again. So in Japan, we first get Wolverine's history with Muramasa. After the Winter Soldier murdered Wolverine's wife, Itsu, the mother of Daken, Wolverine went to Muramasa, the world's greatest swordsman, and Muramasa forged him a blade so he can kill everyone. He put Logan through the refiner's fire by taking his shattered soul and hammering it into the metal itself. Wolverine would wield the blade like an angry god. The first of Quarry, Wolverine starts basically trying to try and find out where he can find Muramasa. Asking first the Silver Samurai, who is not entirely pleased with the fact that, yes, there's going to be a war involving swords on Krakoa. Oh, but the Silver Samurai wasn't invited. Meanwhile, in Arakko, the Tower of Broken Will, which was the first watchtower to fall in the Second Great War, really pay attention to these things. War and Pestilence are going to speak to one of their champions. Apparently, War is rather infuriated with the fact that he's one of their champions because, well, this is the man who murdered War's husband. More on that later. But they explain what's going on. And Solomon said, well, he already has a blade. A hell blade. And he didn't want to damn himself with it, so. And he goes down in search of Muramasa. Well, we get now. Let's about Solomon, our Arakko, this champion of Arakko. We have a prose portion, the trial of Solomon. He could make a mountain fall in love with him, some said. He could whisper down a cloud and invite its rain to bathe him before it blew off. Flowers opened where he stepped, and the ocean surrounding Araco turned up pretty stones and shells and pearls for him to delight in. Man and woman alike both craved him and wished to tear him apart in the same impulse. This craving he indulged to excess. But any who might try to hurt him, he hurt back many times over. Some called him a devil, but the devil deals in evil. Solom's self-professed agenda is pleasure and gamesmanship. He has loyalty to none but himself. He can be found where there is music and flesh and wine, and sometimes blood. Some said he was long past a reckoning. Justice was due. This was the one incident counted on a million hands. The death of Bracken, the husband of War, the father of Summoner. The details of their relationship are unknown. Some say the two were intimate, and when Solom grew bored and ended the affair, Bracken would not allow it out of pride or rage. It is supposed by others that Solom killed Bracken merely to upset War, who has long refused his advances. Still others believe that Solom wanted the gate to Krakoa open, that he was bored with Araco and wished for a new playground. The murder of Bracken was meant to fill War with dissatisfaction and fury that might bring about the great conflict he hungered for that would allow his escape. The redacted had all been wronged by Solom in some manner. Their hearts broken, their purses emptied, their loved ones slain. For his crime he was banished to a pit to remain in solitude until the end of time. Upon his sentencing, when asked if he had any final words, he merely smiled and said, "Oh, this is hardly the last you'll hear from me." Back with Logan. In Japan, Logan is basically turning over every stone and asking a lot of questions, including asking one of Mariko Yoshida, his former lover. And he makes his way towards a monastery in the mountains. We then get another prose portion, The Whispers of Muramasa, learning that Logan spoke with Kyoshi Sato, a Yakuza crime lord, who seems to imply that that Muramasa was taken by the hand. A beggar in Piss Alley, Tokyo. Reading from in the Temple of the Bottomless Well in Kyoto, he read from a journal of Shinto Kakemono, dated Koki 1, the year of Emperor Jimmu. With Mariko pointed him into the direction of the monastery. Meanwhile, Crow, on his way to the monastery, simply said, "Caw, caw, caw, beast. Cat, 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 beast." And so, in hell, Wolverine pulls his skeleton out of the lava as it's burned off his flesh, where Muramasa is waiting for him. This is interspersed with flashbacks when he arrived at the temple and was attacked by the hand. Upon finding Muramasa, he says to Logan, upon being found by Logan, Muramasa says, "Save me, Logan-san." And that is where the issue ends. Now, neat thing, this and the following issue, X-Force number 13, honestly read like just one long comic, because they're written by the same writer and drawn by the same artist. But yes, we're moving on to X-Force number 13, chapter 4 of Ten of Swords. We begin with a quote from Silver Samurai. "Killing is a truth, a sword is a piece of art, and killing an enemy with a sword is the truest art. But every time you walk away the victor, your sword should feel heavier with the weight of a lost soul. This is the burden of the sharpest steel." So we find out what happened in the temple. Logan fought off fought the hand and discovered the hand is looking a bit different. But that's how he ended up in hell. And Muramasa explains a few things that he's here to protect his home, just as Wolverine is there to protect his home. And he's making a blade for a ceremony. So Logan is set aside in a cell in the hellhole, where he heals. However, he's not alone in the hole. With him is Solom. An oracle on Araco told him where he needed to go to. Basically, he needed to go to hell. So he used the Hellblade he had to make himself a way into hell. And he was told he would find that in hell a mutant made of metal. A mutant who will serve as Solom's guide to Muramasa. Well, Solom found Wolverine, so turns out Solom's flesh is adamantium enforced. But Solom taunts Wolverine a bit, and that's how Wolverine discovers that Solom's skin is adamantium enforced. They arrive at the forge, however, Muramasa is not there, but something is going on. A wedding. And gifts to the bride and groom. Are a pair of swords, forged by Muramasa. The bride and groom kill Muramasa. However, Solom then kills the groom and learns just how sharp a Muramasa blade is. Logan and Solom fight their way through the demons, and they both leave with a sword. And so Wolverine then returns to Krakoa and with his sword, lighting the second sigil. We also get a brief write-up on the Muramasa blade, explaining that it is 1,421 grams in weight, has a blade length of 80 centimeters. Materials are, God, I hope I pronounce this correctly. Tamahagane, leather, honoki, and soul. Place of origin is the Hellforge. Maker, Muramasa. Swordsman, swordsmith, madman. And that is where the issue ends. Which brings us to Chapter 5 of Ten of Swords and Marauders, number 13. Now, bear in mind, one of the prophecies also denoted Storm. Made it very clear they were talking about her. So we get a quote from an onslaught, survivor of the onslaught battle. When the fire swept through, we were trapped just waiting to die, but then she came. I've never felt so safe. She was so calm, but you could feel the power in her, you know? Not the weather stuff, but something else. I just knew, no matter what else happened, she was there, and we were going to be okay. And Storm's on Krakoa, thinking about her section of prophecy. Once goddess, once queen, one sword with which to split the sky in twain. By Raymond laid, a tempest contained. The wrath of heavens comes wielding a legacy. And as she considers what she has to do, Kate Pryde comes to visit her, wanting to help. However, Storm informs her that what she has to do, she must do alone. We also get the history of Skybreaker. was forged in the early days of humanity, from the first discovery of vibranium. The first Wakandan king had it forged, and he insisted on his armies being just. The Skybreaker was then passed from chief to chief, protector to protector, held back those who would destroy the fledgling nation, gave them safety to learn and grow. The edge is sharper than any other blade forged by man and will never grow dull. And it bore more fruit than simple protection. Studying the metal gave the Wakandan people an advantage. It helped them develop their natural and medical sciences. Conduit also helped them unlock a deeper understanding of the world and develop technology at a blistering pace. It helped catapult Wakanda into the future. And so Storm arrives, and it turns out that King T'Challa is absent. His duties to the world. But the Queen Mother hears, and as well as Princess Shuri, hear Storm's request. But as big a deal as Skybreaker, as big a deal as it is, it can only be accrued to be removed from Wakanda by T'Challa. But Storm knows that they don't know when T'Challa will be back. That night, Shuri and Storm have dinner together, and it becomes clear afterwards exactly what Storm's going to do. Having brought not just her white X-Men costume, but also one of her black ones. We get a flashback to when her and T'Challa were married, and basically T'Challa walked her through all the security precautions being taken for Skybreaker. Just as Storm gets the sword, though, Shuri comes to stop her. And so Storm and Shuri fight it out. Storm does defeat Shuri. And begins to make her escape. Apparently, there's been a new security precaution in the form of basically robot panthers, which Storm makes short work of. As she leaves the temple where Skybreaker is kept, T'Challa is waiting, she basically said, "Hey, I couldn't wait for you. I needed it. Sorry." And T'Challa even say, "Hey, look, all you needed to do was ask. I would have totally said, yeah, that's fine." But yeah. However, after she leaves, it's decided that the Krakoan gate is to be destroyed. And if an emissary of Krakoa wishes to return, it will be not as a thief in the night, but with the permission and grace of Wakanda, if they so choose. Upon returning to Krakoa, Storm also sets her blade, Skybreaker, in the ground, in the summoning circle. As for the information on Skybreaker, it weighs 2,000 grams. Length is an arm's length, full tang. Material is pure vibranium, panther leather, precious metals, inlay and ornamental, and African blackwood. Made in Wakanda by Olumo, the first father of Wakanda. And that is where the issue ends. Which brings us to a less involved X-Men book, Deadpool #7. Where we left off, turns out Elsa Bloodstone's sick. She's dying, in fact. We begin with Wade kissing Elsa, then being dragged into some flaming pit with a monster inside it by the monster's tongue, and he wakes up. But he wakes up on his throne. Apparently, he's resting his feet on a prophecy monster, so. So the Royal Guard returns, and then Deadpool explains they'll be in charge briefly. And Jeff's got to stay home and hold the fort, but Jeff doesn't want to stay, so said, fine, Jeff will come along. So Elsa and Wade and Jeff go to Greenland, somewhere in Greenland. And she explains that she was in Prague a while back, fighting off bone beasts, and one of them tried to drag her into their seam between worlds, and she used the Bloodstone to close the seam, but that's kind of how everything began. And she points out a similar hole in the sky, that's explaining that's the seam, and apparently they're attacking a village. And so Wade, Elsa, and Jeff leap into battle, save the town, kill the bone beasts, bait bones. And at first Wade is kind of thinking, okay, right now I'm cool with killing them, but if I see a baby bone beast on the other side of that seam, yeah, we're going to have words. However, one of the bone beasts starts to shout out on a dog, and so Deadpool kind of says, you know what? No, these things got to go. Babies are no. But the plan is to kill the bone beast queen. They have a hive mind after all. Kill the rest of the bone beasts. So they go up into the seam, exploring, and the bone beast queen welcomes Elsa back. Apparently Elsa promised to return. And apparently Elsa promised to return with the one who shall replace Elsa as the queen's new host body. Huh. Funny how she never mentioned that. Which brings us to Black Widow #2. Where we left off 3 months ago, Black Widow vanished. And so Winter Soldier and Hawkeye were keeping an were doing what they could to keep an eye out for her. When Hawkeye literally saw her walk by a TV news camera in San Francisco. And so, turns out though, it seems Natasha's now an architect and quite happy. But it is part of a plan of Arcade's, so yeah, not all is what it seems. So Bucky and Clint are watching Natasha and her family. Clint goes in the garage to try and talk to her, but mainly about her motorcycle. No recognition, no. You look kind of familiar. Nothing like that. No, there's no. And then turns out she has a baby, Stevie. So that night, Natasha and her fiance are going out, and there's they've got a babysitter who's keeping an eye on Stevie. And then after dinner, her fiance's got to go elsewhere. But Arcade's employers are basically saying, no, you're going to wait. And no, you're not going to send people to go kill Winter Soldier and Hawkeye. That's going to draw more attention. Though they do point out that things are definitely working out well if Natasha didn't even remotely recognize Hawkeye. So Natasha's about to leave after her fiance gets into his cab. But from an alleyway, she hears someone ask for help. So she goes and enters the alleyway and promptly kicks the asses of the guys holding a woman in the alleyway. and calls 911, and then apparently eventually heads home. Turns out also that her pet cat is named Logan. Tasha sings to Stevie right quick. She's in bed. And one of the arcade's employers is watching all this. And then Natasha takes the baby monitor, goes into the garage, and starts tinkering around. And turns out she just blindly started making a bomb. And when she realizes what she's done, she goes, "Did I just make a bomb? Why the hell did I just make a bomb?" And that is where the issue ends. Which brings us to Thor number 8. Where we left off, Thor had basically chucked the hammer back down to Broxton, Oklahoma, and an auto mechanic there. Very few, were like, "Oh, Thor's hammer is landing in Broxton again. What's this going to mean?" And an auto mechanic picked it up and got it, was empowered, and so. But Tony's also written on the hammer was Tony Stark's personal phone number. First off, we learn a little bit about the Great Book of Kings. It's explained that since the dawn of Asgard, since the ancient time of Buri, there has been, and it always will be, a Great Book of Kings, written and read only by them. Within its infinite pages, you will find the stories of Ginnungagap, the great nothing that birthed the threads of creation, and from them the weavings of damnation. Tales of death and rebirth, of Ragnarok and resurrection, of love and power, of winter and lightning, of thunder and blood, of titans and of war, of gods and man and monsters, and the myths that they have all made real. Turns out that Bor, Odin's father, as well as when he was young, as well as Odin when he was young, and Thor when he was young, each tried to read the Book of Kings, only to find it blank. And now, however, the Thunder King, fully grown into his rightful crown, has not yet seen a piece in his reign to read the chapters that finally lay bare before him. He's not yet read about the Goblin Shadow, the second god of lies, the lightning that walks, the king in stone. Nor has he realized that the book itself seems to grow lighter every day. Its chapters shorter, some erased entirely. Its black ending racing faster with every page turned. And even if Thor had read every damned word of this endless and yet somehow doomed tale, he would find no mention of what was happening that day in Broxton. So in Broxton, Tony Stark is there trying to protect the auto mechanic and from the members of the press that are there. And so Tony uses an EMP and also a bit of rerouting. And Thor arrives. And he's given back the auto mechanic, Adam Aziz, offers him back. He's like, "Oh yeah, here's the hammer." Or before Thor can take it, Iron Man takes it. But they talk a bit. Tony smacks Thor in the face with Mjolnir. And Thor explains that, Tony should not mistake wielding his hammer for wielding Thor's power. With or without Mjolnir, he's still a god. And Tony is still a Tin Man in a lightning storm. But Thor takes back Mjolnir. They talk a bit. And he, Thor says, hey, look, what's going on is my mess to deal with, okay? So let me take care of it. However, Tony does make a suggestion. Consider a vacation or some rest or something. Get away even for a weekend. Tony feels that Thor seems a bit tightly wound. But it also turns out Adam would like to maybe do some flying before he gives up, the power. And so he gets to fly with Mjolnir. And for his first landing, he actually apparently does a better job than Thor did on his first one. Turns out that when Asgard was over Broxton, Adam was actually an inmate in the local prison. And he had this little window he could look out into the sky and see all the birds, and he says it sounds stupid saying this to Thor, but he used to pray that he could be like the birds. But he then thanks Thor for letting him fly, and Thor simply says, no need for thanks. It is in fact what prayers are for. And Adam reverts back to his old self and gives Mjolnir to Thor. And as he walks off, tells Thor not to be a stranger. And then Thor gets to thinking about what Tony said. Take it easy, consider a vacation, some rest. Get away, even just for a weekend. And he goes back to the clinic he used to maintain as Dr. Donald Blake in Broxton. And figures perhaps it's time to reacquaint himself with the good doctor, which is where the issue ends. That's it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying live long and rock hard.